We're live, everybody. Welcome to Aquarian Anarchy. We got Chance Lunceford, the uncommonest. I don't know, he's got so many different names. I don't even know where to start. But you are ready to have your mind blown. We'll be back in just a minute. And as you know, we always start off with our quote. This one from Thomas Jefferson: "Timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous sea of liberty." And I can't think of a better guest to embody that quote and to get us started off on that conversation than the one, the only Chance Lunceford. You see Nico at the bottom of the screen. Marcus is trying to get his camera fixed up. But without further ado, Chance, thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And that's quite a load to place on my shoulders to live up to here, but I'll do my best to do it. But mostly just thank you for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to what's to come.
Yes, sir. Yes,
nice.
sir.
Yeah. Welcome aboard, brother.
Been kind of, I don't know, I guess we've been crossing paths for almost 3 years now. I think back when I first started doing stuff with the Hotep Nation and everything, and you did an interview back then, I think early 2019 or so with Hotep Jesus, and then Marcus and I helped set up an interview for you with Adam Kokesh when he was running for president as a libertarian, and so that's kind of how we started to interact, and then we've kind of both gone on our own little paths where I don't think we've been necessarily in each other's mentions a whole lot over that time, but every now and then we just kind of reconnect, and somehow I don't know, I feel like we just keep our paths keep colliding because we seem to be pointing in the same direction very often, and that's been really fun to experience. So I want to get into how that started. So you go back and you look at how I found you, I guess, and it's through people like Ed Lattimore, Alexander Juan Antonio Cortez, Western Mastery Sean, and folks like that, Hotep Jesus, obviously. What was it? How did you get involved with those guys, and what led you down that path and got you to the point where a lot of those guys, you're among their friends?
Well, it's been kind of a trippy experience, I was in 2018, and I was thinking to myself, I have come a long ways in my life. I've been to some dark places, and I was making some decisions that were impacting my life and the lives of those around me in negative ways. And then I switched that around, and it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of focus and dedication, and I made a lot of mistakes and had to eat crow and continue to admit to myself who I was and what I had done. And that's a painful process. But I did it, you know what I mean? And I had a lot of myself wrapped up in that. It's well, I put everything I had into becoming a new person and essentially brainwashing myself out of being a bad man into being a good one in a very real sense. And I thought, a lot of the people, most of the people that I was involved in this darker life with bit the dust or are still there or are in lives that nobody would want to emulate. But my life's pretty good, and it seems to be getting better, and I feel like I have something to share. So I hadn't been on social media since I was 19 on MySpace, and I thought, I think Twitter is probably the place for me. And I just went on there, and I started getting a following pretty quick, and then I allegedly got banned just within a couple of months. And so I rejoined, and then that was allegedly, of course, but if I did that, then I had this next account, and that's where I was for some time, and that's where we crossed paths. And the thing is, I knew that I had this thing inside of me that I needed to get out into the world, and it involved writing a book. It involved contributing a large section to another book. It involved getting my podcast off the ground. And from October, I announced to the world, I'm going to do these 3 things. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to get this contribution to this other book done, and I'm going to start my podcast. And January 1st, I had my first podcast out, I had the book written, and I'd done my contribution. And it took me I probably slept 3 hours a night, 4 hours a night on average
Mm-hmm.
through those 3 months, and just burned it on both ends. And I literally fell asleep at my keyboard, just pressing 1,000 J's and waking up and having to delete it, But so then I started it.
1,000 of them. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, yeah.
I remember you
I've
said
seen my
something.
fair amount of J's.
You said something that really stuck out to me in one of your car videos when you were in the midst of that, where you said, "I bit off more than I can chew, but I'm going to chew it anyway."
That's about right. That's about right.
It's just like, yeah, I lit this candle on fire on all ends, and I don't know what to do, but just let it burn, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, that's a good interruption of my long-winded rant. The point is, I started that podcast, and then I just started reaching out to my friends, and I had a unique approach. I felt like, because I'd been listening to podcasts forever, all of them. I mean, 8 hours a day for 10 years, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was ready. I felt like, and then pretty soon, I thought to myself, look, I don't have these same social impingements that other people do, where they're afraid to reach out and ask somebody for something, because I don't connect strongly with social norms in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of free from those. And so it's like, look, man, I don't care if they tell me no. Of course they're going to tell me no, but some of them won't. And I just started asking people, and why not? And what I learned is, if you have any kind of platform or any way for somebody to get any kind of exposure, a lot of times they're going to take it, especially if their job is to present themselves to the world, because it's practice for them. It's practice for them. It's like, I have a rule: always take the interview if you have the time to take it, because you never know what you're going to learn. And also, it's just like, you learn of opportunities, but you practice presenting yourself to somebody. Everybody was pretty game. And I've gotten this comment a lot with the interviews, or I guess conversations I've done, is I'm not like a prepackaged situation. I'm in the flow state with my friends. Is how I treat them. It's like a conversation between two people, and that's been harder to do with some people than others. Like McAfee was a great example of that. I was just kind of when you talk to somebody who's changed the course of the world in their lifetime, there's a responsibility that you feel. It's like, man, who am I to be having this conversation with you? But he was, he was a great,
you're just
he was
as
a great
human
sport.
as he
And
is.
it's just, I'm some guy, and I've made that clear from the beginning. I'm just some guy, man. I mean, I have my talents, and I feel like I'm really good at the things I'm good at, but I'm not very good at a lot of things. But so how I got involved with them is, I found people who I thought were excellent, and I reached out to them, and I said, hey man, I pick you to come on my podcast, and I'm going to continue to reach out to you until you agree to come on my podcast. So sooner rather than later is going to be best for everybody. And that you'd be surprised how often that works. You'd be surprised how often that works.
I might actually start using that one. I got a few people who haven't followed through on some agreements that we've had, and I might actually employ that tactic.
Right. Yeah, you got to be like that annoying kid
I like that
like, if you want my mixtape, be like Soldier Boy and like throw your mixtape in the Happy Meals for the kids. so you get a listen.
And I have to say,
exactly
Chance,
like that.
Chance, that works from the other side too. For a long time, I tried. My goal was to get Adam on any kind of mainstream media, and I kept failing because he's Adam Kokesh, and they were scared to death of him. So but with Andrew Napolitano, what I did was I just pounded on that door, very similar to what you're talking about, and basically made it obvious. Hey, you know what? I'm not gonna stop fucking with you until you either block me or you interview my candidate. Is pretty much. I mean, I didn't say any of that, but that's pretty much my attitude, and it paid off, because Adam wound up on not only with Judge Napolitano, but on prime time when Napolitano was substituting for Kennedy. So not only did that persistence that you're talking about pay off, it paid off greater than what I had tried to get. So I think that is the method.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll add just a finer point to that, which is, I've developed relationships primarily as my main form of currency since I joined the internet, because I was mature enough to understand that that's what one needs to do in order to build what is necessary to create momentum behind what they're trying to represent. You have to have the relationships, because I have no friends and you have a million friends. And if I befriend you, I have a million friends. It's
Right.
just the fastest way, you know? So,
Mhm.
but it's not like, you have to be careful. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna starfuck you because I have this thing I like that I want about myself. You have to be very genuine. It's like, look, man, I connected to you on this
Mhm.
level. I'm trying to represent this, and I'm trying to do this thing, and I think you and I could do a good job of representing it. And
Mhm.
I think that because I'm in a position to have this conversation with you, and because you already have the following, you can tell people to come here and listen to this conversation because we had a good one. And so it was always up to me to make sure that I was going to have a good conversation with somebody. And I'll tell you what, sometimes I struck out because some people didn't want to connect with me. They didn't.
Yeah.
I've only had that happen a handful of times, but it's like glaringly obvious for me and for the people who've been long time, who have paid attention to me for a long time,
Yeah.
is sometimes I failed to connect with my guest, whether they wanted to or not. Whatever the reason was, I failed to connect with my guest, and those were shitty episodes. So in fostering the relationship, you add dimension to the conversation. Like you began this conversation by saying, hey man, we have this history, and how did that history sort of get going? And we have the basis for this conversation, which we can build on. But if I was just some guy who you were star fucking, right, then it's like,
Right.
here's this thing that you want to be famous for, why don't we set you loose to talk about that? And
Right.
that's cool too, but it's just not the same. And I always want to touch the heart. It's important to me because I'm that kind of man. I just want to connect with people that way because I don't like the superficial stuff. Let's cut that away and talk about the universe and your soul and what you really care about. Because if we can't
Right.
get to that stuff in our conversation, then I feel like I wasted my time, and it's precious to me. It's precious to
A
me.
lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand the time of somebody else. Everybody takes other people's time as their convenience. And with that being said, you allowing you yourself to take somebody else's time, that's selfish as fuck, number one. Two, it's okay when it's a society like this, right? Because since a lot of people are superficial, they won't give a fuck about your time because they're not cognitively aware of how important of a resource time is to us. Granted, it's only relative to everybody, and since it's relative, I can fuck you over with your time and just not really care about it. But when you're cognitively aware and you are in the attempts and the craftsmanship of being a better person yourself, you're always more than aware of somebody else's time because, like I said, I don't want to fuck over your time.
So that being said, you said you want to, connect to people at a soul level and get to that. Where is that with you? One of the things that our podcast is about is we're not only about freedom, we're about spirituality. So where's your heart? If you look behind me, you see dozens of African craziness. Chad goes on about his Catholic religion. I love the series he's doing right now. Nico, very in-depth understanding of the symbol sets that he works with on a spiritual level. What brings you that soul out for you, Chance?
Well, in much the same way you just described how your backgrounds and mode of dialogue, I mean, literally your backgrounds, but also your backgrounds, describe your spiritual stance. What you're seeing of me right now is a pretty good description of how I approach things. I have an approach I call personal sacred practice. And what I mean by that is I'm the kind of man who looks at the world and it's self-evident that God is there in all things, including me. And that like my light right now that's shining on me is shining from above, and it's like a bright white light. And I have this black background because it's just about my relationship with the light. And then I have a relationship with you. And along the way, I have these interactions with the world around me and with other people, especially other people, but sort of foundationally, I think for me, with the world around me, the natural world. The mountains in particular are a place where when I'm there, I exist in a state of just blissful serenity and connection with the divine. There's
Nice.
there's no doubt in my mind, and there's no, and because of that, I grew up in the Mormon church, and I've taken a lot from that.
Mhm.
And there's no, a lot of people, when I describe some of my philosophy, call me a Mormon, but Mormons tend to think of me as something of holding a heretical stance on certain things. So,
Sure.
but that's fine, because my position is that the things that have worked for me are the things I walk with. And I want to introduce people to all the good things that I have found. And I want to be introduced to all the good things that I have found in my podcast and this conversation. Everything that I'm doing is all in the attempt to try to make each moment a sacred moment in accordance with my principles, so that I'm living a sacred life, because it's my duty to find out what that means, and then to live in accordance with those principles, because anything less, and I'm not doing what I know I'm supposed to do.
Man, it's
And that's what it is. That's my approach, man. And whatever
Awesome.
it takes for you to get to that, that's what I want you to do. And I encourage you, as long as it doesn't infringe upon my ability to do that for myself, because that's what's most important to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the stuff. We just did yesterday was the feast day for Shingo, or in the Catholic faith, before they got rid of her, the feast day of Saint Barbara, who's associated with Shingo. And during the ceremony that we did with that, what I find interesting, and is much of what Shingo talked about was what you just said. I love coincidence, and I love the way that things become synchronistic. But he said, in every moment you should, one of the things that we do as spiritual people is, sure, we have our lives and we go on about our lives and do those kinds of things, but our heart and our soul should be fixated on God, and it should be fixated on whatever that unification is. So it's a very similar message. And I think that the core of that is why people like Chad and Nico and myself have already come together, because it was, so what if we described God a little bit different? That's okay. We still have that heart that is filled with the Holy Spirit. We have that heart that is filled with the glory that is God. And so I enjoy your perspective, and I love the mountain stuff, because for me, nature is God. So
Yeah, 100%. I wish Chicago was like that, but only thing I got is a tree house and some trees around me. I'm appreciative of it. I'm appreciative of it, but I cannot stop to think, like, when I'm in my backyard, like, holy fuck, how many trees were actually around here? Like, how much
Right.
of nature has been, like, stripped away, and how much of God has been removed from this area, and we get replaced with a new God, like we're always subjugated to something that is not natural, but they make it appear to be natural. And that's why it's something that we personally have to continue to reinforce, not just to ourselves, but everybody around us. Like, hey, there's a lot more to life than a Kardashian mixtape, There's a
Right.
lot more to life than, sitting down and worrying about, why did Keisha cheat on Jalen and Love and Hip Hop? Like, and so it's a beautiful mindset and perspective that you present, especially with your background. It's not just with your voice, but the body language and how you present. Like I told you, I love your background. I love your setup. These books are great. Don't get me wrong, but that oneness that you hold in your center is something that you continue to express, and not only to express to yourself, like I said, to others as well. And that's something that I am in awe and infatuated with at this moment in time.
Minimal
Awesome.
homo.
A little bit, just a tiny bit, Paul,
Pause.
I want to let you respond to that, and then I want to follow up because I have something I wanted to add, but I don't want to hog the. I feel like we've hogged the mic a lot and haven't let you talk.
Yeah,
so I want to give you some space to kind of vibe off of that.
Well, I would like to make clear that I'm just a part of the conversation. I shouldn't be thought of as the focus of it. I mean, I'm just contributing, but I do have a couple of things to contribute there, and one of them is just my approach is firmly rooted in a fundamental belief, which is that it's my approach and it's not yours.
Mhm.
Whatever you see here that you like and want to emulate, it's open source material, but you should carefully analyze what you see, and not just with me and in this moment, but what are you seeing before you, and what's behind that, and what's behind that, and what's behind that, and how much of what you're seeing and accepting into you do you really want to accept into you, and how much of accepting one piece automatically comes loaded with those other pieces. Like you don't know me.
No,
It's like the Maynard line, all you know about me is what I sold you.
that's true.
And I'm a genuine dude, and I'll tell you that, but you just have to take my word for it. And who I present myself to be is who I am. I say the same shit on the internet as I say in person, as if you're my friend, as if you're my enemy. You know, I'm about being who I believe I should be, and I make mistakes all the time, man.
Humans.
And it's important to me to admit them too. But all I'm saying is, look, I'm very wary of the cult of personality lining up behind me. I want to be Merlin and not Arthur. I want to just have the king's ear. I don't want to sit in the throne. Look,
Right.
I'm a smart guy in a lot of ways, but I'm a good man, and I have a family, and that's central to me is my family. But I haven't always been a good man, and if you want to bring up my past, that's fine. But I'm not a good representative for like I don't have a clean board, and I'm not gonna fake like I do. And I'll tell you the truth, and that makes me an uncomfortable person to be a leader. I mean, it makes me a good person ideally, like you would want somebody who does that to be a leader, but I'm not inclined to do it. I just want to present enough to you to let you make your own choices in your own path. And it's like, look, here's some information, and I'm obviously presenting a slant to it because I'm a person who has beliefs and an angle on it. But if I asked you, if you looked at God from 1,000 angles, would he look different from each of those angles? And would you discount any of them if you knew it was God? You have to just be careful what you're throwing away and what you're accepting, and why. And you're going to be wrong. Almost, look, man, I have been wrong about almost everything I've ever believed in my life. And I look around me in traffic, and I know when I'm in traffic, I've got an edge on at least 80% of everybody out there in the world. I know I do, just because of the way they drive. It's clear, honestly. Anytime you want to ask yourself where you're at in traffic, if you don't think you're driving better than like, say 80%, if you think you're driving better than 100%, you're a psychopath. But if you think you're not driving better than like 80%, just
Get
like
off the road.
Well, yeah, and just be like very careful about how ambitious you
Right,
make investments and gamble your time,
Well,
because
I was gonna say it's like that line from Rounders where he says, you know, when you sit down at the table and you can't spot the guppy, you're the guppy.
you're the guppy.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
or it's like the fish or whatever it is. But so it's interesting that that you went there when I was gonna kind of piggyback off of what you were saying before, because I don't know, to me it's very interesting. Like I'm all I think there are people who may have the impression that I'm like some sort of like I have it all together. I've got like this you know, I don't have some, you know, baggage or some or whatever the case may be in my past or anything like that. There's a lot of like what you were talking about with like being the same person online that you are in real life in person. One of the things that I have actually struggled with is as I have gotten to have more people interested in what I have to say, paying attention to it and everything, and I've kind of felt a responsibility to make sure that I'm saying the right things. I've actually noticed that like there are some other really, really, really important people who live in my house with me who don't always get my best the way that Twitter does or the way that YouTube does. And I have had to, that's part of why I started this series that Marcus is talking about, is because and it's so interesting that Nico said the stuff about like removing the trees and replacing it with all this other stuff. Is I think that's like the same as like this thing that I've been going through, because this isn't me. This is a meditation book that I'm going through, that I'm just sharing with people as I'm going through it. Not like, hey, this is me, look at how great I am because I'm going through this book, but this book and what's in it is amazing and has changed my life. And I hope that it can have a fraction of the impact on you that it has had on me. But it right out of the gate, like first 8 pages in, it's talking about like just emptying yourself and making it to where all that's left is God. Because a lot of times what we do is we try to fill, and I made this metaphor of like the elevator, like if you want the elevator to be full of God, you've got to let all the other passengers off first. You've got to all those attachments, all those things, all those attractions, all those, the glitzy little, these types of things, and all the distractions and everything else, trying to, as best as you can, understanding your state in life, that you have, we have responsibilities. I'm a provider, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. I've got certain responsibilities. So it's not like I can just become John the Baptist and go spend 40 days in the desert eating locusts. I've actually got to support people. So, but what I can do is I can not allow a sporting event or some other thing, some distraction of mine that is a coping mechanism that I have leaned on, let that get in the way of listening to what my son has to say when he wants to talk to me, and saying, hey, wait until the commercial, that sort of thing, the things that I have done in the past. Those are the things that I'm trying to work on getting better at, being more present, being more available to the people who really, really count on me and really, really need me. Because one of the things that I'm starting to realize, my oldest daughter is in college now, and her not being in the house anymore, when she comes back to the house, and it's like my heart fills up. I run to the door to see her and everything. And I start thinking like, shit, I wasn't doing that 6 months ago when she lived here. It wasn't this big moment of like, oh, she's back. It was just like, it was just another day. It was just another cog in the wheel, like it was just, we're just motoring along. And a lot of times we get caught up in the churn of that day-to-day life. And it's a lot to carry. And so as a result, a lot of times we lean on some crutches that aren't necessarily healthy for us, and can actually be a very insufficient facsimile and attempt at a replacement for what God actually provides for us in that regard. And so it's like I said, it's really interesting that you said the things that you said a while back about kind of directing your focus and aligning things in a certain direction, in a certain path, to help lead you there. Because I really think that's Marcus and I and Nico, we had Vin Armani on a few months back, and I've been watching. He's got a podcast out now that he does with his priest and with a friend of his, called The Royal Path. And one of the things that they talk about, and this is like an amazing metaphor that I'd never heard before, but it finally like struck with me. Okay, this is beautiful. So it's like God is throwing you a lifeline and he's pulling you towards him. And all these other things are things that you reach for off of the path that he's pulling you down. And like, well, wait, but I want to, but this game, I got to go to this game, and it's like, and not to say that like recreation and some of the fun things that we do can't be good for us and good food for our soul. Every now and then we need a break. We need to take time off, but it can't become such an obsession that it takes our eyes off of God. That's the difference. Is when the thing is helping you to continue to deepen your relationship with God and with the people you love the most, who you have been charged with the responsibility of caring for. when it keeps you in line with that, it's fine. But when it starts to take you away from those things, it's like you are grabbing onto something while God is pulling you towards Him, and you're the child who is, like, I don't want to go. You're kicking and screaming along the way. So anyway, I will step off of my soapbox now.
So, Chance, one of the things that your post earlier on Twitter talked about is two different kinds of anarchists, and I thought that was really apropos.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to dive into that and how you see yourself as not being one of those and being one of the other. And I'll let you get into that. But I do want to kind of point out, to your point, that you were saying that that you're imperfect, and that people that you'd rather be Merlin than you would Arthur. And I believe me, I identify with that too. That makes an awful lot of sense to me. I am comfortable doing that. That's something that I've in my experience in the freedom movement, I am more comfortable working from behind. But that being said, then that's the anarchist way. The understanding that we're all imperfect, everyone. There is no one who is perfect. To think that I need to be the one on top and I need to be the one who is the authority, that's statism. That's authoritarianism. That is at its core what we don't want. And I would bet, like, if you look at comic books, my favorite comic book heroes are people like Wolverine or Batman or Spawn, people who, characters who are innately flawed but rise above and try to be better people. Because I think that's the difficulty. Rich Mullins, who was a famous Christian singer, talked about that there are two kinds of Christians. There's the kind that know that at the end, when Jesus comes and all that happens, they're good. They're just going to go. And then there's the rest of us that are, just praying for God's grace and His mercy to allow us to go in. And to me, that's the real way that it is. As much as this authoritarian or that authoritarian and this person that's in front or that person that's in front might be good at whatever they're doing, there's always a fault. No one is perfect. And so for me, I respect that for sure you want to be a support system for your principles. I get that. But don't discount and don't think that just because you have faults and just because you have flaws, that you aren't the leader that God needs in that point and at that place. So I would like to get into, how you view your anarchism. But you can also comment to any of the shit I just said or Chad said or Nico said.
I think I'll start at a place and work my way in.
Right on.
Yeah.
When you seek to improve your life by means of your character, meaning you establish some rules for yourself and then you say, I'm going to stick to these rules because they're mine and I believe in them. You might have to change them over time. Your maturity grows, your experience grows, and you need to be open to the possibility that those fundamental principles are incorrect in some degree, because they almost certainly are. Nevertheless, they're yours, and it's a choice you make to say, I'm going to represent these things because they seem most correct to me right now, and anything less than that would be an immoral choice. Okay. If one of those principles is that you don't seek to embody the role of the leader, and you make choices based upon that every day, what you know is that when you're placed in a position of authority, you didn't land there because of some facade of ego that was blinding you, or at least you have a better probability of not being in such a position. You might still have been weak in that way and landed yourself in a position, but you might be able to realize it if you take a moment of reflection. It's always recommended if you can afford it. Sometimes it's the moment of action and you have to reflect rather than take a moment, but it is what it is. But that said, when you have as a principle that you want to govern yourself, it only stands to follow that the expectation that others can and should govern themselves is sort of the next thing you might start to think of if you begin to apply that to the outside world.
Sure.
I think it's everybody's duty to govern themselves. How could it be otherwise? Well, let me preface that by saying that I am a person who believes in some flexibility in terms of action, meaning I'm a believer that we have some choice in the outcome of our lives. I don't think we have ultimate choice, meaning there's some momentum behind our lives that's just irrefutable and undeniable, and you could probably move it like about that much. But other than that, like your day-to-day stuff, you can respond in a certain way or another way to the way that somebody approaches you in your office or in your home or on a podcast or what have you. You can get in a Twitter flame war with some fool if you want to, or you could go, I don't need to do that with this person. I mean, what am I going to convince them by calling them an asshole? Probably not. Okay, well, what am I going to do today? What's the choice? But the point is, my anarchism, I phrased them in that way because I used to be a total degenerate in the traditional sense of the word. I mean, I was a criminal. I stole. I hurt people. I was violent. I took lots of drugs. I drank every day. I'd lie and cheat and steal my way into any terrible situation I could find, as long as there was a party involved. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And part of the reason for that is because I had some things I didn't know how to deal with from my childhood. Evil finds its way into your childhood sometimes. And as a child, you don't know how to deal with that. So and I started doing drugs and drinking when I was like 12 years old because I just was sad and I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know how to talk about it. And so I just figured out the easiest way to deal with it. And it cost me a lot in my life. But it also is like, at every step I said, fuck you to everybody because I wasn't doing what any was expected of me from my family, from my school, from my church, from myself, from my God. And so I said, fuck you to all of that. And I said, I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in existence. I don't believe in myself. I don't believe in you. I think everybody's a lie and everybody's lying. And I don't have a problem lying because it's all a lie. And my life took a nosedive.
Yeah.
And I lived in hell. I've seen hell, and I've been a demon. And let me tell you, it's real. Demons are real. Demons are real, and they live next door to you sometimes.
And
they live in the apartment complex. Wherever the cheapest apartment complex is in your neighborhood, that's where the demons live. I'm sorry, it's just true. It's just true because demons. And then there's the high class demons, but you don't really get to meet them.
Those are devils
usually. Okay, we can make a distinction. That's fine. You usually don't get to meet the devil unless you got a treasure that he wants. Unless your soul starts to sparkle so brightly that the devil comes after you, and that's what I'm talking about. But look, the point is, if you stand on your principles and then the inflection point comes to you, there is authority in an inflection point. Sometimes you have to make a fucking choice. And what are you going to do? You're going to make the wrong choice or the right choice when it comes into your hands? Well, if you're prepared because you've been making a habit of making choices according to your principles, then the intensity or the impact or the importance at the moment is negligible. It's no factor. Good. Because I'm still going to stand on my principles. And then the consequences of such an action are going to be of a magnitude that I might not be prepared for. But it doesn't matter because I know I chose them. You can give me consequences of any magnitude, and if I didn't choose them, they're not mine, and I'm not going to feel any sort of responsibility towards them. And because of that, I'm going to look for blame and scapegoats, and I'm going to try to diffuse that responsibility because I know that I didn't make those choices. It's like if I had made the choice, maybe things would have worked out differently. But these fools in Washington are making these choices that are bad for me, and so I don't have to feel bad for it. And that's the game that everybody likes to play. It's bread and circus. And meanwhile, we're busy in the Coliseum slaughtering each other and getting eaten by the pet beasts that they keep making. You know what I mean? And so thanks for the opportunity for that.
Absolutely,
sir.
Yeah. The thing is, though, there's a lot in that. You know, we every choice that we make has a consequence. And yes, sometimes there are scapegoats. Sometimes there are things that we can blame things on. But ultimately, it is easier to stand on your principles when when everybody supports them. It is very difficult when there is when every member of society is telling you you're wrong, and but your principles and your belief tells you that you're right. It is very difficult to stand on those principles.
Mhm.
And so I think
Well,
that it
can
is
I
that
can I
courage that gets there.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were about to ask a question. My bad.
Okay. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so it's funny that y'all bring that up because yesterday in when I did my little thing, I actually skipped over this and didn't read it off of my little sheet of notes. But part of my meditation yesterday was this quote. It says, "For the just man there is no law; he is a law unto himself."
Mm-hmm.
And
Damn.
when you think about it like that, it's like,
Damn.
yeah, like if you're really about that life, then as Chance said, it doesn't matter what the gravity of the circumstance that's put in your lap is. There is no, yeah, but you don't understand. This is a big deal. So I had to be evil for a minute. It's not negotiable. It's not negotiable. And in fact, it's way worse if when you are handed that grave circumstance and you choose to, as George W. Bush said, we had to abandon free market principles to save the free market. Like if you have to abandon your principles, if you have to abandon good and love and compassion and forgiveness and caring about people, caring about humanity, in order to kick the can down the road to later on save humanity, humanity is lost in the process.
Yeah.
Because therefore, there's no humanity in the things that you would seem to be as just. You know, we get lost at no, actually, fuck where I was going to say. For you, Chance, you said that you went down uh, a troubled road at a young age, and you did say that your people grew up Mormon. How did that come about, if you don't mind me asking? Granted, even though we all have our religions and it doesn't make us the best people on this planet, but while having religion to be able to help structure and guide us to a certain area, and you did say there were lies, what was that experience that was like that switch where it's like, fuck all of this?
I think it had less to do actually with what I was being presented. Everything has its limitations. Every philosophy or sort of scaffolding of a worldview. But I just lost my faith in myself. It was fragile anyway. I mean, I'm an only child. My parents were divorced at an early age. And I'm just kind of an odd dude. I just felt alone a lot. And I had a very disappointing relationship with my mother in a lot of ways. And my dad is a very good dude, but, working hard. And I just spent a lot of time alone. And it's not to paint a sob story or anything, because I have a great life that I love, and I made it. It's all good. I'm just saying that I think that the limitations on my original bearing with the world, or my original worldview, were very much about who I was and what I needed to do, because a lot of the foundational things or the scaffolding that I use now to build my worldview is based upon the things that I was taught as a child in the Mormon church. And I have a little bit of a different take on some of those things than many of the people in the Mormon church do. And that's fine. But I just want to be very careful. I'm not trying to cast shade on my roots. And in fact, I would say that if you don't have some sort of conflict with your roots, you probably haven't inspected them close enough. And if you don't reintegrate a great deal of your roots, you probably haven't inspected close enough still, because
Mm.
all of who you
Amen.
are is wrapped up in all of that. You know what I mean? And there's conflict in you.
Always.
And it's up to you to resolve that. And to an earlier point, it's like, it might not be your fault that something happened to you, but obviously it's your responsibility to deal with it, because you're the agent in your own life that must
Yeah.
act in accordance. So, all of that is to say that when I guess, went a different path, it was because I felt very lost, and the only thing that was there to catch me when I jumped off a cliff was the rock bottom. And the whole point was I was jumping off the cliff in the first place. What did I expect to happen? To be honest, I just didn't want to really live anymore, because my whole I just didn't feel like I had something to tether to that made me as a person worth being a person in the world. And it was true in a lot of senses, because I didn't do anything good with my time. And I had to learn to choose to do that, and to build the confidence to be a person in the world, one meaningful action at a time. And that's why when I have conversations with people who kind of have a fundamental orientation that's at odds with what I just said to you, I feel the need to go to war with those people, because I know that what they're saying is false, and people who buy into the ideology that there's this inability for a person to enact change within their own character kills people. It's a world ender. It's a world ender, because we run into flaws because we make mistakes, and sometimes we make them over and over again, and they eat big holes inside of us. And we're supposed to accept the narrative that we can't fill them back in with anything besides sadness or the government. It's like, come on, man. Why would you believe that? That's not true, because you look at your kids, or you look at your wife, or you look at your best friend, and they make a mistake in their lives over and over, and then you have that conversation, or somebody does, or whatever happens, and they make that switch in understanding. It only happens a couple times in people's lives where you really see it. It's so it's worth stating that it's rare, but you see it happen, and then their whole life goes that way, and it's like, you really can change. He did it. He did it. She did it. She did it. And now I want to be a part of that. Now I want to be a part of that. And even if you've made changes before, you see somebody make a change who's important to you, you got two choices. I'm going to be a bummer and be like a chain on this person because I'm not ready to grow. And so every time they touch me, they're going to be excited. And every time I touch them, I'm going to be a bummer. Or I'm going to like take that hand that they're offering me because they love me. And then I'm going to get my other hand on that ladder and I'm going to start pulling. And I'm going to start carrying my weight. And I'm going to get better too, because if we do it together, it's way easier. But I can't force you to do it. And if I try to force you to do it, you might just go the other way and say, hey, man, you can't make me do that. So I won't.
Even if it's the best thing for it. Yeah.
And I
kids will
think
teach you that right away.
For sure. And man, all the lessons are in family. Everything that you can learn from your kids and your family, for sure. But to your point, that's kind of how we've approached because a lot of our focus, we do focus on solutions, but we also focus on trying to build bridges to people that believe in freedom. And that's one of the things that we've done with the Hotep Nation is, often, one person or another in the Hotep Nation will be a little bit statist, and there will be somebody who has some statist opinions about this or that. So I can just shit on them all day and drive a wedge between what I'm trying to do and what they're trying to do. Or I can say, okay, I disagree with you on that. Okay, but you need my help doing this. And so I'm going to help you doing this. And you're going to see that I did that for you. And you're going to look at me a little bit different because I helped you. And Chad's covered this massively before, but when you set those expectations that you're at least on their side and you're helping them with their project, then they look at you as at least somebody who they can connect with. And I think that we've managed to do that in a lot of ways with a lot of the different interconnected people that we've touched our podcast with. But I think we do that all the time just by the nature of who we are. And I think that, Chance, you're one of those people, and that is like that, like what we like to do is to
I was about
make
to say, it's also the people who we've connected with that they share that same type of mentality of like putting the differences aside and finding the common ground and focusing on that. And what can we do? What can I do to help you build what you're trying to build? Because I see hope in it. I see promise and progress in it. And let me try to help you do that, because forget about the little things that we don't maybe necessarily see eye to eye on, but let's work on, and like, I would think, Marcus, you and Nico would agree, like, we don't have a whole lot of our guests who don't see it that same way too. There are a lot of people who have reached out to us or who have come on and have just been like, look, I may not necessarily be an anarchist or vibe with all that stuff, but I'm willing to jump on with you guys to talk about this because I see what you're doing and I appreciate it. And I appreciate that I have an opportunity to build with you on that. So I think it goes both ways for
It's
sure.
all about resonating though,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything on this planet resonates. So if it don't sit right in your gut,
Mm-hmm.
then that means that it's something that's sinking in your stomach, and that's dead weight. We don't like to carry around dead weight. It's pointless to carry around dead weight. Recently I went through a little spasm, if you will, and I was carrying around a lot of pent up, regressed feelings, and I let it all be known. And once I let it be known, I felt so great. Granted, the person probably didn't feel the same way about me and how I felt, but at the end of the day, even though you may not necessarily, they won't see where you're coming from until that light goes off. And not everybody gets that light to flick on until they make that same mistake again. We all live in cycles, and then once you're done with one cycle, you go into another cycle. This bitch is a whole cog and gear machine where we just run in tandem. And if you're not necessarily mentally prepared, emotionally prepared, spiritually prepared, you can get caught. And therefore, you're back in that other cycle that you were attempting to run away from. And so when you're able to present certain things, my dad just got himself a big old thing of water. And I keep telling him, Dad, you don't want purified. You don't want purified. I walked into his room and there's a big old purified thing. I'm like, Dad, you got to get spring. Hopefully that takes him out the cycle of not necessarily not paying attention to the things that he puts in his body, but it sparks that little light to saying, okay, well, since he told me about the water, I can start working better with my diabetes type. So it's always those little things that can push the button to get the gears going for that person to be cognitive. It's not your job to always make somebody cognitively aware, but when you do and put the attempts to make them aware, you can resonate better, and it gives them a chance to resonate with you. It all depends on the mindset and if one is willing. And we already know, we've discussed this, we all have our flaws. They can point out my flaws 110 times better than I can, and I can point out their flaws, because we can always look at somebody's window and like, damn, that crib is fucked up. But that doesn't change the fact that,
I don't know. I look at mine, and that's all I look at mine. I'm like, golly, do we live in a garbage can? What the hell is going on?
But the thing is that it's like you have 110 things running all the time.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Your direction on working towards better things, your crib may get a little junky, but you have the ability, if you're cognitively aware, or another person has the ability, if they resonate with you on a certain frequency and they want you to do better with your life, they will let it be known, hey bro, your sink is overflowing, dog. Like they'll let it be known. And that's the purpose of us to a degree is, yes, fixing our own shit, but helping other people fix theirs as well. That's it. You can't be stingy with knowledge like this world is, because look how fucked up it is now.
So can I have an opportunity to explore something with Chance real quick?
Yeah.
You touched on something, and I don't want to just kind of drive by it. You talked about when you hit that low point and like the will to live, and that just kind of struck me because I've been there. Everybody's rock bottom or whatever you want to call it. Everybody's moment where they have that sort of dialogue with themselves about whether it's better to tap out or stick around at a different level. Everybody's level isn't the same level. Some people might be like, I can't believe, why would you don't have it nearly as bad as so and so, and but you never know what somebody's going through. But one of the things that struck me when you were saying that, and I want to see if I want to kind of figure out where you see the attempts to like fill yourself with other stuff, when like whether it was rejecting God or rejecting all these other things and saying, to hell with all this stuff, and some of the things that you talked about that you were doing that were selfish or whatever else. It seems to be my experience has been, the more selfish I am, the more of a cycle of like a death spiral that is. That is a feedback loop that is terrible for me, and only like exacerbates that feeling of like, what the hell's the purpose of you being here, and it's only in starting to turn away from that and starting to look to like build something and be better, be more in sync with the will of God, as I have discovered it, actually it makes it to where like now my body just wakes up in the morning. There were times where I used to try to have to figure out what in the world I was getting up for. And now I don't even think about it anymore. Like I got stuff to do. We got stuff to do. Let's go. And I just, anyway, I'm trying to find a question in there, but you know what I'm saying? Like I want to kind of tap into like, where were you with that? Like, where were you with your attachment to material things, to the things of the world, to your own selfishness, and where that bottom hit and what it was that got you out of that?
I can respond to what Nico was saying and respond to your question, I think.
Okay.
Let's imagine that every interaction you have with anything is an interaction where you say, I would like some love, please. And the thing that you're interacting with says, I would like some love, please. And then you go, okay, here's some love. And then, but it doesn't diminish your love to give that to somebody. But whatever you decide to put in place of love, if you decide it's going to be something else, in the example I used of myself earlier, what I was putting in place of love was nothing. It's like, oh, here's some nothing. Here's some nothing. And so everywhere I went, I was destroying everything I touched because I was annihilating it. I was like oblivion walking. Here's nothing. I want nothing from you. I want you to have nothing because there is nothing. So here's nothing. Because the truth is, like, however much love I needed as a child, I just didn't get enough, I guess. Because I did what I did, and it was as I was coming out of childhood that I became this kind of person. So I've been to counseling. I've thought a lot about things. I've written millions and millions of words. I don't know exactly why I did the things that I did. I just know that I did them. And as far as I can guess, it's because I had a big heart that didn't get filled up with the right kinds of things. And I think kids are a little bit different. You know what I mean? They have some agency, but they don't have the full capacity of agency. It develops over time. Agency develops over time, and that's no different for me. But to bring it back to what I was originally bringing, like in that scenario, if you want to steel man it for a moment and assume that that's true, if I say, here's some love, and then somebody takes it and they're like, love, huh? That's nice.
Mm.
You got any more?
Mm.
You're supposed to say, yeah, I have infinite.
Mm.
Here you go. And they go like this. And you go, here you go. And they go like this. And you go, here you go. And they're like, oh, my arm's tired. What am I supposed to do with this? And you're like, have it.
Mm.
And they're like, have it? And you say, have it. And then suddenly it's a part of them.
Yeah.
And then it's more than it was before, not
Mm.
less.
Mm.
And every time you do that, it's just more.
Mm.
And but you can kill your own love. You know, that's the divine spark. God is love. But what does that mean? It means doing the right thing in the moment, regardless. It means no matter what the world is going to do to you, because you shared your love, you chose to share your love. And I didn't learn that until I tried everything else, and I just ended up feeling worse than I'd ever felt. It's like, maybe, the thing is, it does hurt when someone smashes your love into smithereens. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. You're attached to your gifts to other people. When you serve somebody, you want them to appreciate it, and that might be your ego, but I don't give a shit. It matters to me. If
It
I
hurts.
serve
Yeah,
you,
it
then you
hurts.
appreciate it because I love you and I want you to love me back. It's part of the deal, and I'm comfortable telling you. Like, I'm a person who loves people, and I tell people I love them, and I give them hugs, and I care about what happens to people, and that's why I keep my circle small too, because to be open in that way with infinite people is an invitation to your death.
Or
And Jesus, like Jesus is a great example of that. It's like, okay, I'll just give you all the love you want, and they're like, get him.
right. Bring his ass up. Yeah.
And every time
That's
somebody
dude.
says,
That's
I'll give you all the love I have, they're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, let's just see about that.
Yeah.
And then if you
Take it
really
all.
mean it, then they
Mhm.
kill you. And I really mean it, but I'm trying not to let the word get out.
Right. No, that's beautifully said. And thank you for that. I mean, I don't really have anything to say in response to that except thank you. That was beautiful.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And for me, I do have something, because I always have some shit to say, but for me, it reminds me, and this is an image that I call to often, the idea of the hippie putting the flower in the end of the barrel of the gun. And but in this particular case, you have to be ready for that. And ultimately, in that image, the jackbooted thud did shoot the hippies, but you have to be ready to be shot, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be ready to get your heart smashed, to truly be giving. So many people want reward. They want to give just so that they get something, even if that is the appreciation of the person that they gave to. You have to clear that shit out. You have to just give. You have to just be an emissary of love for the purpose of being an emissary of love, even when you are denied. So I think that's a beautiful sentiment that you've presented. And I don't think anybody should think that any of us know everything that there is. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna continue to move on. But you can tell when people are a little more, I guess, founded in their beliefs. They're a little more, comfortable in where they're at. And it seems as though you are. From the ashes of that struggle, most towers, and I'm using a Tarot analogy, of the smashed tower, the Tower of Babel that comes falling down. And generally with the tower, what you do is you rebuild using the pieces that fell apart of that tower to build yourself a new fortress. Can you go into how you rebuilt your fortress after you smashed it?
Well, limestone, bright white limestone, used to adorn the pyramid,
Mhm.
and it contained the library of the world. And when the world died, the peasants took the limestone and made huts, and the history of the world was lost.
Mm.
But the world went on, and from those huts, a new world emerged, and mighty things have been built.
Hmm.
Maybe not yet as mighty, but we'll probably get there before the next thing explodes us. Maybe.
Mhm.
Look, man, the reality is, your life in a certain sense is like God is a cowboy, and he's got a 6-shooter, and you're a bullet, and he just aims it at the sky and fires it and says, "Good luck," and just walks off. And but
Maybe
and then
it's
there's
a
like a
mutant.
and then there's like a gallery of other cowboys who are just trying to shoot that bullet out of the air and get lucky. Sometimes they shoot you out of the air. They're gonna try, and sometimes you go all the way up, and then you come all the way down, and you end up right back in the goddamn dirt. But either way, how you feel about that journey and your trajectory and the people shooting at you, that's your choice all the way along the way. And so from the ashes of my old past, I've got nothing but love, because I've got nothing but lessons. I know a lot of things I wouldn't know otherwise, and I'm grateful for that. And I have a life that I couldn't be more grateful to be living. I have a family.
Same.
I have a wife who loves me and is smart and beautiful and talented and dedicated to me and dedicated to the things that she does, and is moral and is good and raises my children right. My children are good and smart and healthy and talented. And they have the ability to make relationships with people in a way that I don't. And I live in a good community. I live in a neighborhood where nobody ever drives in my neighborhood unless they mean to come here. And they only mean to come here if they're live here or they're friends of people who live here. And I'm tight with my neighbors. And so what did I rebuild from the old pyramid? Well, I learned my pyramid was upside down, man. And once I reoriented and I built my foundation on God, and then on family, and then on community, and then on outwards, and I remembered that I am the fulcrum for all those things, because I only have the capacity to act as myself, it all became clear. And so for me, it's I walk in the world, I'm like, oh, good things, good things,
Gems,
good
brother.
things, good things, good things. And then people come to me and I'm like, here's good things. Here's good things. And sometimes still, I gotta be honest, I get suckered into being like, here's a fuck you.
Mhm. We're human.
But
Yeah,
but sometimes I really mean it too. Maybe I'm flawed for meaning it, but sometimes I mean it. I mean it, man. And so when I say it and I mean it, I don't regret it.
polarity, baby. Come on now.
All right, so we're maybe a little bit out of order because I was going to go into the Jester stuff next, but I think since you brought up your wife and your kids and everything, let's talk about. I think you touched on this a little bit, but just a little bit more depth on like what um, what your family situation, like how you chose to put yourself on the path that led you to where you are with the family that you have, and then how you are um you know shouldering that responsibility as the father, the head of that family, and what in 2021 it means to be a father who heads a family in a world that wants to cut the head of the family off and throw it in the gutter.
Hmm. Well, one of the ways I respond to that is, have you ever noticed that kids are good people who know the natural boundaries and mostly want to live within them? It's quite remarkable. They kind of like got it. And
Kids
if
are
you just
definitely wise sometimes.
if you foster that in them, one of the
Mhm.
things I'll tell you about being a father that has always been very important to me, because I was a precocious kid. I was with it in a way that a lot of kids are not, and it made adults very uncomfortable. And even still, they tried to baby talk or down talk or treat me like I was a retard or something. And it's like, I'm not retarded just because I'm younger than you, man. I might not have the experience, but if you would just explain it to me, I promise you I could understand. And because I had that experience over and over and over again with patronizing adults as a child, uh, I don't talk to my kids that way. I don't talk to anybody's kids that way unless they're behaving
Nice.
like an idiot. And then I talk to them like they're an idiot. And it's like, look, man, you're being an idiot. Stop
Stop
it.
being
I'm going to yell at
yeah.
you. And I don't, to be honest, I don't care whose kids they are. I love kids. And I feel a duty to serve and protect kids because I had shitty stuff happen to me as a kid. And so I have that watchdog mentality because I don't want evil coming into their lives. And also, I don't want the complacence of chicken shit adults to allow them to develop some sort of perception of the world that they can get away with shit that they shouldn't be doing. So when they're around Uncle Chance or when they're around, everybody calls me Uncle Chance, whether they're my friends or they're my actual nieces and nephews, because I take an interest in their lives. But they know they can't pull shit around me. And some of them are a little bit scared of me too, but that's fine because I love them with all my heart. But that's just to say that being a husband, being a father, having a relationship with your family, it's the same. It's more of the same rules that you should be applying to everybody else. They're the most important people. So respect, being willing to listen, being willing to disagree respectfully, being willing to take time to consider things and then return to a conversation. These are all musts. These are all necessary if you're going to have a healthy relationship with your family, because if you don't have those things, then what you have is contention, what you have is disagreement, what you have is discord in your home, in your safe space. And if you welcome those things into your home repeatedly, habitually, then where is the place that you can be safe from the discord, safe from the disagreement, safe from the confusion that you are constantly bombarded with by the outside world? And the answer is nowhere. And that pressure that mounts and builds, your cup overfilleth, and it spills out onto the people around you. And if your cup's full of poison, by God, you're going to poison the people who are most important to you. And then how are you going to feel about things? And then you might just turn into an angry alcoholic. Then you might just turn into the things that you promised yourself you wouldn't be, because you had a pretty good example of that from somebody in your own life. But we break in the ways that we know how to break.
Right.
And we rise in the ways that we're shown how to rise. It's always a helping hand comes down. It's like, hey, man, here you go. You're going to take it. And you always have to be careful. Sometimes that hand ain't pulling you up. It's pulling you in a direction you didn't understand. But that's why relationships with good people fostered over time, and the trust and the predictability that comes with a long-term relationship and understanding a person's motives is important. And that's why you have to build the kind of character within yourself that makes you attractive to have a relationship with the kinds of people who are out there doing good things. And that means you got to tell the truth. It means you got to make the time to meet your commitments. And that means you got to be careful which commitments you make. And that means you have to serve the needs of others in front of your needs sometimes, because you understand that that's actually what you need to do. And when people see you do that, the people who are already doing that are already successful. And they're looking for more people to be successful with, because they understand that success compounds when it works together. And that's why you're here together, and that's why we're here together, is to try to do that with each other. And that's what I'm all about. I call myself the facilitator of excellence, and I'm only looking to find good things in people and help them grow. And I'll let you in on a little secret too. When you engage somebody in something that you believe in, they're not engaged in something you don't believe in. It's not just that you get them to focus on a thing you agree with, it's that you draw them away from anything else. They're focused on the thing you agree with. And so that means that they're representing your principles right now and not the things that you disagree with. So the more that you can engage, the more that you can bring people within your fold, the more that you can get them to be working on the things that you believe in, the less of the shit that you don't like in the world is going to exist. And it's self-evident as soon as you really take the time to think about it. It's not what you're against. It's what you're for. It's what you represent. It's not what you try to fight.
Yep. And there's so much in this world that is simply people who think they're doing something by juxtaposing themselves to what they oppose, and not actually doing the thing that they want to see. Like, build the world you want to build the world you want to see, and stop trying to fight against the world that you don't want to see, because that you're immediately going onto their turf.
Right.
and being consumed by it ultimately, and that's where a lot of that poison you talk about. And sadly, I must admit, I needed to hear a lot of what you just said, and I'm going to have to watch this back again and take some little notes of, like, some things that I need to clean up in my own house. So
Me too,
much
man. Hey, I
appreciated.
said it. I said it,
sure.
but it's something I struggle with. Believe me. You know,
Look,
No,
we all
I,
do.
I say a lot of stuff like that to myself all the time. Where like I tweeted last year sometime. I was like, a lot of time when I'm tweeting, I'm really tweeting to myself. I'm giving myself a pep talk. Like, this isn't me telling you like, hey, I already got this shit down. You need to get on game like me. Like, no, I'm telling myself like, listen, stupid ass, you better do this, or you're gonna take another L or 10.
That's where we fall, though, is because we can give the world the best fucking advice possible, but when are we going to sit the fuck down and take our own advice? That's
Right.
what is necessary. It's yes, we can spit all the philosophical and the love light. It's the reciprocation that you give to yourself, not just to other people. Like Chance said earlier, he was giving people back nothing, and a lot of people are okay with giving back nothing because they don't understand the true principle of giving love away. It's something that I fault to myself. Earlier today, my grandmother asked me to hook her up some breakfast, or she was trying to make it, and I'm like, Granny, go sit down, please. I'll hook you up. Like, this is something, I got you. And man, after I was done and I warmed up, made myself a plate, and I was like, cool, I'm about to go sit down, relax before I do my readings. And then she asked me to do 101 things. And like, when I'm in my zone of like, okay, I'm about to go have me time, and somebody like, what you doing? I'm like, don't ask me another motherfucking question. But then I'm like, let me stop. Let me take a second back and let me do something and show that I love her, like I say every day. Let me. It's little things, man. It's little things that that shouldn't bother. But sometimes we get so caught up always within ourselves that even when we don't do selfish acts on a daily, we dismiss the selfish acts we do on a daily. So it's a beautiful thing when you recognize that you need to sip your own medicine that you're giving everybody else.
For sure. But that's part of it, man. We are all imperfect. What we need to do is catch ourselves. What we're all doing is perfectly natural. To give an example, my little girl is an amazing human being. My youngest daughter, her name's Anya, and my whole life I've been kind of a heady kind of guy. I'm an Aquarius. I'm all about thought and all that stuff. And my wife is a very heady person. She's more emotional than I am, but she's still really intellectual, that kind of thinker, And my oldest kids are all like Mercury based kids. They're all really into, they're Gemini, or my son is Gemini, and my oldest daughter, one of my sons is Gemini. My oldest daughter is a Virgo, and they're very fixated on thought in a specific way. Well, my youngest daughter, she's a Taurus, and her way of thinking is totally alien from the way that I'm used to. I've got 4 kids, and my youngest son is a Libra, just to finish the set. So I'm used to thinking, which is another air sign. It's another intellectual kind of sign. It's hard for me to connect on that level with Anya. And she's also 11 years old. She's at one of the most annoying ages in human history. 11 sucks. 12 sucks. 13 sucks. I know, because all my other kids' life sucked at that time. So it's hard to understand her. And what I came to, then this happened today, the conclusion that both my wife and I came to is we need to stop trying to make her us. We need to stop trying to understand her through the visage of who we are, and start understanding the visage of who she is, respecting her way of thinking, her way of being. Because yes, I'm more, let's get me a problem and figure it out. That's my way, and that's not her way. But her way is very loving, and her way is very giving, and her way is very, altruistic in many ways. And I need to recognize that though she's different than I am, I need to recognize that. So I reminded myself of that, just kind of like Nico did today, that the approach that I need to come is with compassion and with respect. So I learn these lessons every day too. And that's the existence that we're working with. We're working with an existence where we are imperfect. If we were perfect, what would be the fucking point? We would already have figured this out. We'd have blown up, or whatever it is that becomes enlightenment, or whatever. We've joined with God, whatever. But we're not. And God has a plan for us. There is a purpose for each of us in this world. And to me, if I believe that my purpose is to help to free people and to help to bring people together and stop all of the division, if that's what I believe that I need to do that at home. And so I'm with you. And to your point to begin with, how did you get focused? Was it just circumstances of your life that led you to focus down on your family, or was it a thought out plan?
There are 4 things I can think of immediately that are foundational in that. Number 1 is that, but for the family that I had, my life would have been a fucking disaster. My dad, my grandparents, his siblings, they saved my life. I didn't realize that necessarily as a youngster, but I came to realize it as I've grown older, and I only have the utmost respect for my father and my grandparents and my aunt and my uncles because they saved my life. We haven't always seen eye to eye, any of us. I mean, my grandparents have gone to the great beyond, as they say, but the rest of them are still alive. And in fact, we've had some disagreements, some of us recently, that put some space between us in our relationship, we'll say. But I've never had anything but love for my family, and it just took me some time to realize that. But okay, that's one component. The second component is there was a number of families in my neighborhood that really took me under their wing, and one family in particular. Shout out to the Bascom's. Kent, Karen, Nathaniel, Natalie, Chris, Carolee, Tom, and like a baby that died very young, Tyen. But that family took me under their wings. They treated me as one of their own, and it wasn't always easy for them to do that. And but they taught me that love is like consistent daily love is what it means to be a family. Those people did, in addition to my own family, working for me in ways I didn't understand. And the third thing is that because I was an only child, and because I felt alone a lot, and because my parents divorced, I knew if I was going to get married and have a family that I was going to take that very seriously, because I didn't want to have kids and make them feel like I felt. I just didn't want to do that. And the fourth thing is that my wife has an uncommonly tight and loving family, and they welcomed me into their fold with such alacrity and immediacy that I couldn't help but reciprocate so fully. And I was looking for that, and I knew I was, but there are ways I didn't understand that were made clear to me by having a family who loved me. I have sisters and I have brothers, and they're all married, and I married them all. I performed the ceremonies for all of their weddings. And I have a father-in-law who loves me, and we haven't always seen eye to eye either, but he loves me and I love him, and we have a respect for each other based on the years of family that we have together, and that I've loved his daughter, and that I have children with his daughter, and that I take good care of all of them. And I love my family, my in-laws and my current family, and the people who I've had in my life long enough, and they've been good enough to me that I consider them family. And I haven't always been a very good friend, and I'm still not a very good friend, to be honest, to the majority of my friends, because I don't make time for them. But there's a reason for that, and it's because meaningful relationships take time. And I also have a certain amount of need, and it might be selfish, but it's part of my duty. I spend a lot of time working on the things that I feel compelled to do because I feel it's part of who I'm meant to be. I write, I build projects, I facilitate the growth of others. And those things take a lot of time. And, to be honest, I've had some health problems recently. I was working in the trades and then doing this stuff in my off time, and then I haven't been able to work because my physicality doesn't allow for it. And that's been a very new thing for me. I've defined myself through my physicality through much of my adult life, and to have that all taken away from me suddenly has been very humbling, to say the least. But it's helped me refocus all the more on my family because I've had time with them in ways that I've never had before. And I've been able to be there through every moment, through thick and thin, in a way that I haven't been able to do. And it's meant everything to me. And so now I'm in a position where I'm making all my living on my mind instead of my body and my skills as my hands. And I must shake the tree and make money come to me. Otherwise, my family doesn't make it. And so I've learned, I've been talking about my capacity to do this in my spare time for some time, but I've been thrown into a situation where I had to make it work, and now it's working. And I'm actually, combined with all the stuff I'm doing, I'm actually a little better off than I was before so far. And what do you know? The things I've been talking about are coming true on a scale that I wasn't necessarily prepared to jump to yet, but then I had to, and it turns out I had everything I needed to do it. And so the point of that message, I guess, is just that foundation of family that I was able to build. It's everything to me, and it's my foundation, and it's what gives me the strength and confidence and the drive and the knowledge that I have and need to go out into the world and to do the things that I need to do, because the people that I love the most are depending on me to do exactly that and to be the kind of man I've said I am. Because otherwise, this whole thing that I have built that I cherish so much is going to fall apart. And then what kind of man would I be?
Oh man, yeah.
Hold on, wait 1 second. It's about that time, gentlemen.
Okay, all right, yeah. Go ahead, bring it down, Nico.
So, you see, he eating, and I'm eating too. So if you want to eat with us and parlay and shake the tree, and you know what, spread the love, the joy. Don't fill it with the emptiness and beat people down, because what's the point of that? Like, what you gain out of that? But you know what we can gain? More patrons, because guess what? We just need $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. Can I get an amen? Wait, one more time. $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. Thank you. If you guys would be ever so loving and gracious and enjoyed the gems and all the things that we provide, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and share this. 2 shares, speed the spread. $5, join the familia. And Chance, much appreciation, boss. Like, you've been filling not an empty void, but you've been filling our cups even more. So with further ado, I'd like to get back to the conversation, but please, these pockets, they flutter when we all are together. So, hit the 5 if you really want to vibe. Nothing but love.
Shameless self-promotion is nothing to shake a stick at, and that's a perfect segue, Nico, for us to bring up the very own Grift Master himself. Let's bring the board up right here. You can see. Yeah, there we go. All right, so here is the Grifty's page right here. All right, so let me hang on. Let me find. All right, so let me scroll down. Look who's number 5. Y'all go to thegrifties.com right now. Help my man Chance elevate himself. We're trying to get this man a grifty. He's out here grinding. He's working hard. It's free to go ahead and give him an upvote. Give the man an upvote. He's been grinding. I have not seen anybody put in so much work to grift his way to the top as you have. You were sitting there on the top for a while, and then the game got figured out. And so you got knocked down from the pedestal, and but you still, I appreciate the grind. Like I respect it. You keep grinding your way back up to the top. What what do you have to say for yourself?
There's 9 votes remaining. Come on, people.
Yeah, that's
right. A vote for the
that's,
people's grifter
I get 9
is a
votes
vote
day,
for us all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's,
Right.
That's right. The people's grifter is a vote for it.
I'm calling my movement ironic populism.
There you go. I
And
love it. Yeah, I
my
saw that.
grift is I don't have a grift. It's the hardest grift out there.
For sure,
put
the
in real work.
non-grift.
It's like, just put me on top. I have nothing to sell. I'm not, it's just like, this is it. Just
I've got a collection of funny stories about this whole thing. But probably one of my favorite moments on my internet history is Hotep Jesus just getting so upset about, look, I didn't tell him to write the code that hacked the site. And it's not my fault you didn't make a good site to begin with, bro. I'm a white hat in this. And I told him, I was like, look, man, you just think of me as a white hat. It's not my fault they wrote the code. They're just my friends. I never told them to write the code that would continuously vote for me thousands of times a day. That's your bad. That you had a website that was easy to do that for. They told you it was the easiest website they'd ever hacked. So it was my fault.
And then they slammed the back door on y'all's foot.
Yeah, they did. And then they took away all kinds of my votes. I mean, it's like they were already tallied, bro. Hey, listen, it's the grifties. It's the grifties.
I know, right? It is ironic populism. I mean, it's an ironic way that your grift got ungrifted. It was very, very funny. But no, I just wanted to give you a chance to defend your position and promote to shamelessly promote your grift.
Well, look,
if you want
I just want to shout out to Uncle Hotep too, because he saw the game from the jump. He called Brian out hardcore. He said, "Man, I think you're just trying to stop the white man's grift." And you know what Hotep Jesus said? "You goddamn right."
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
and
racism.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that.
But the thing is, you got to get an honorable mention out of that motherfucker right there. That has got to. If you don't win, you have got to get an honorable mention.
But look, I'm at number 5 right now. There's no reason I can't win.
You're right.
It takes an army to feed a grifter.
That's right.
As they say.
Yeah, as they say. All right. So, without further ado, we have to get into one of the most epic threads I have ever read.
Hands down.
I shared it in our Telegram chat for this show with the guys so that they could get a chance to dig into it. What inspired? I posted a link to it in the description. If anybody wants to go, just go down in the description in Chance's links or whatever, and look for. There's one I have labeled. It's the Court Jester thread. What inspired that? What made you think like I'm gonna spit this wisdom from this perspective? Because it's a very, I just love. It's brilliant the way you put that together.
Well, I'll be honest with you, and it's not the first time I've said this, but it's not an uncomfortable thing to say. I'm just not a very stable personality in a lot of ways. And what I mean is I got a lot of voices going on. I mean, I know which one is mine, but nevertheless, there's a bunch of them in there.
Yeah, you feel that when you go through that thread. Yeah, when you go through that thread, you feel all those different voices. Yep.
And that's one of the characters that has been there. I mean, I very much am a person to laugh at everything. I try to present my viewpoints seriously when I'm on the other end of the interview situation, because there's a sense of duty to do service to the things I'm being asked about. But the truth is also, I'm for sure the person making a joke at a funeral. I'm for sure the person rubbing the bride's hair at a wedding and getting her butt hurt at me for messing up her $100 haircut or whatever. You know what I mean? Just like
100. That's cheap, man.
I don't understand. Well, what do I know? Just saying. I have a very hard time understanding why you shouldn't laugh at everything. And I know not everybody feels that way. And I've had a relationship with a guy who called himself Roman McClay. And he wrote a very interesting book that a lot of people have a lot of feelings about. And he told me one time, not everything's a joke, Chance. And I was like, well, maybe, but that doesn't mean that you can't laugh at the funny parts of it. And plus, when I take myself too seriously, I tend towards violence in my bearing. Not necessarily towards actual violence, although you
No, I know what you mean. There's a certain violence in like just how you view things or approach things, or how you think about things.
And I have been
can
a violent
manifest
man
itself.
in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't even like to contend with that now, to be honest. I mean, I have and I do when I must, but it's a weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of sitting with it right now, to be honest. But the point is, I don't like to be that man unless I have to be. And I feel like I don't need to be that man unless it's a matter worth staking my life on. And there are some things like that, but I also don't live the kind of life where I put myself in a position where I need to present myself in that way very often. And but I have. Life or death consequences are a very real thing to me. And a lot of people haven't necessarily been in a position where that's the case, and so they're frivolous with their language and with the way that they approach the world, and they think that when they talk about things like war and discord and divide, that they don't have consequences, and that there aren't people who are going to come get them when they talk about these things and approach people in that way. But there are. And to be honest, I'm one of them still, and that's something I contend with. It's like, if you come after me, I'm going to get you. Or one of us is going to get got. And I know that about myself, and so I try to present myself to the world and put myself in a position where I never have to be in a position where I have to be there unless I have to. But if you don't have that part of you, if you don't have any war in you, then you don't understand that there are people out there who do. And so I have to laugh at myself. That's why I have approached life with an attitude of laughter, is because if I don't, then the war comes out in me, and I don't want to go to war with anybody. I'd rather laugh about it and move on. But there's a lot of stuff out there that just makes me want to go to war. Because there's a lot of evil people out there trying to hurt a lot of other people, including me and including the people I care about, on a broad scale and on an individual scale. And I've been in the presence of people who are just a dark vacuum of evil. And, it's like, like where my face is at, you get that vibe from them. Like they're just sucking the light out of the room. I know that those people exist because I've seen them, and I was on my way to being one. Do you know what I mean? So better to laugh, but also you got to call them out on their bullshit. And if you call them out in a way that gets everybody to laugh, it's going to make it even worse for them than if you approach them with anger, because they can manipulate you through your anger, but you crush them through their humiliation. And so by turning the daggers of humiliation on somebody through humor, it's one of the most effective weapons that there is in the world to crush somebody, and in a way that makes them know that you crushed them. You crushed them. And so
you get away with saying certain things with humor
sometimes
that you don't get away with as often with direct, it's not all the time. Obviously,
jesters lose their head, though.
Cancel culture is a real thing, gentlemen. Cancel culture. They came for Dave for making jokes.
But right. But what I'm saying is that it's if you have but the thing is, though, if you look at it, Dave survives.
He did. He's a goat, though.
Because
you can't do that with men.
Right, and that's what I guess that's kind of the point, is that I'm saying that, like, you can't. Yes, jesters lose their heads and everything, but the clever jester, and that's why one of the things I appreciate about the thread that you put together is that it's so cleverly written. It's so well put together that it gives this, if you know sort of vibe. Whereas if you don't know, the jester's getting away with saying some stuff,
some real slick shit,
that if he was really, really direct and came out and said exactly what's behind those jokes, he would lose his head instantly.
And that's the point. That's the point. I mean, and you're sharp enough to pick up on it. And that's what I'm trying to demonstrate, is I can say anything about anybody at any time, as long as I say it the right way. And part of it is saying that somebody named the Jester said it, by the way.
Right.
There's facility in embodying characters, and people see you pretending to be a character, and then they think it's not you. and maybe parts of it aren't, and maybe parts of it are, and nobody's really quite sure which is which, maybe including you. And that's, I guess that's for you to deal with, but it buys you the space to say something. And look, man, I might not be overt in what I actually feel about a situation, and I might be wrong, but I feel like something needs to be said, and so I say it. And all I'm trying to demonstrate is I've been allegedly banned from Twitter more than once. Now I'm not. And I say the same kinds of things to the same kinds of people on occasion, but I know how to say it in a language that doesn't get me in trouble. And if they want to try to get me in trouble, it's like, well, what do you mean? This is just like a story about a thing that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I don't know what you're talking about. That's open to interpretation, and that's why it's art. And I thought you were pro art. Throw this in MoMA, bitch.
Right. Yeah. The thing is, man, this is my jam, though. Because I practice voodoo, and the in and out of personalities is a thing. And what that thread reminded me of massively is Legba, who is the highest spirit in voodoo. And Legba's a trickster, but he's also ultimately good. But he is a trickster, and in everything that is a story of Legba. So he can weave those stories in and out. And what's funny is, often he's pictured as a jester. So it's kind of a funny kind of juxtaposition. Generally, that's more of a Santeria thing than it is a voodoo thing. But at the end of the day, it reminded me an awful lot of Legba. And it also, the other side of Legba is the Loa of Death, G'day, constantly making a joke. There are 3 or 4, if you ever are in a space where you get to meet him, there are 3 or 4 meanings to every single thing that he says. And that compound meaning, it will be picked up. Let's say the 4 of us are in there. Each of the 4 of us may hear the same statement and get 4 totally different meanings from that same statement, because he had 4 meanings. And that's the kind of wisdom, I think, that you brought through that string. And for me, that kind of communication is important, because we have to figure out the ways, because ultimately these airways, if you will, are controlled by the state, whether we like it or not, but they are. And so we have to find the ways to obscure and move beyond the curtain. And I think that's a powerful tool that the freedom movement doesn't utilize nearly enough. I think somebody that's good at it is Spike Cohen's pretty good at using similar kinds of attacks and similar kinds of conversation. But ultimately, most people aren't. I love Adam. Adam's one of my best friends, but he's not good at obscuring things. He just right in your face, here you go. It's just how he is. And I also, so I wanted to say that about what you were talking about, is it really did remind me of Legba quite a lot. The second thing that I wanted to say is, you were talking about that innate violence, that innate warrior mentality. I'm a very, very peaceful person. Chance, you don't really know me, but both Nico and Chad know me quite well. And I'm a very peaceful person. Don't make me be mean. Don't make me be violent. Please don't do that. Because, that number one, I'm going to be mad because you made me be mad. You made me go to a place that I don't want to be. When they talk about, without a state, who would protect us, and where we wouldn't have an army, and we wouldn't have a good luck. You attack my family, I'm the guy with the skull mask with heads on pikes when I'm done. Don't fuck with my family, because I will make it to where you never will be able to again.
Yeah, you don't fuck with people who know voodoo. That's
That was
a-
not Marcus. That was the court jester. He was just quoting from
Yeah,
something he
yeah,
read. Marcus didn't say anything
Actually,
at
I want to pull
all.
it up. I want to pull it up and like.
He just
Shout out to Legba. Shout out to
yeah.
Anansi. Shout out
Right.
to Loki.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Shout out to the
exactly.
tricksters. Marcus was just riffing off of some of their tracks
For
back
sure.
in the day.
You know, I was joking with my wife just the other day. I was like, you know, what if God was sort of as naive and fickle as he's often portrayed? You know, like, why betray my rules? Because, and
Right.
don't ask any questions, or I'll kill all of you. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll kill all of you.
Right.
And then and she was laughing along with me, and then I was sort of similarly portraying a female god, and I used the like screechy voice, like and she's like, that's so rude that you would portray the female god like that. And I was like, well, what do you mean? You were just laughing earlier today about the ridiculous caricature of God I made. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. And I was like, hey, I won one of these. I can't believe it. But I have to give credit to my wife, because that Jester character is like central. And boy, have I poked at her. And my dad tried to tell me when I was young, he said, listen, don't make jokes about your girlfriends. Don't make jokes about your wife. They don't like it. They're not like a guy. They're not like your buddy. You don't do it. They don't like it. And I was like, well, whatever, man. It turns out he was right. They don't like it.
They don't like it. They really don't like
it.
15 years,
like
15 years later, she can take it a little bit, and she's, man, I tell you what, I tell her this all the time. I was like, I'm rubbing off on you so hard because she's developed this just razor sharp and ever ready sense of just mean humor. And she really only unleashes it on me, which is fine. But I laugh so hard. She gets me so good sometimes. And it's just one of those where you're got and there's nothing you can say. And all you can do is just gut laugh. And boy, having my wife have that finally developed sense of humor that I've just been like slicing her down into over the last decade and a half, I'm so proud of her. I'm just so proud of her to be able to tear into me in that way, because that's how I was raised. My dad, my uncles, my aunt, boy, good luck being thin-skinned or not able to take a joke around those fucking people. Right. I mean, just nonstop. My dad would have me go pull my uncle's leg hairs out just so they would go give me a swirly in the toilet. It's just that kind of family.
I gotta say, for my wife, I didn't train shit. My wife has had her sense of humor ever since I knew her, and she is way funnier than I am. I throw a lot of shit at the wall. Like, this might be funny. This might be funny. This might be funny. No. My friend Matt, none of you know him, but he's a great anarchist, lives in Southern
But
Indiana.
he exists for sure. I promise.
For sure. Right. Well, I'm just making.
None of you know.
He's the one. He's the one who Marcus will attribute all of the stuff he said a little while ago to.
Correct.
Exactly. He's the president of the lodge.
Right. That's right. So Matt made a very good observation about Amber, and he said with her humor, she is like a serpent that strikes. She waits for her moment, and you better watch out. That venom is going to come all the way in, and that is absolutely how she is. And I'm very proud of her humor. I'm very proud of her ability to do that. But I did want to point out that is one difference. I understand that you've helped to get her humor out. I have nothing to do with my wife's humor. She has that all by herself. Just wanted to point it out.
That's funny.
Well, listen, I got like beauty and talent and goodness. I had to train in the rest of it. You know,
right.
We have to make compromises.
No, but it's interesting. So like Marcus put something out. Is it her birthday, or is it y'all's anniversary or something like what is it? Or you were just like,
I love her.
It was just like, it was the anniversary of something that you had posted or something like that before. Maybe you did an episode or something like that. That's what it was. It was Anyway, so you put that thing out, and I like it. It kind of hit me because I was like, yeah, that's good shit, Marcus. Because that's like I know Marcus talks about Amber all the time. That like they're deep in love, and it's it's awesome to see that. And it's funny, like we're at church today, and my wife and I are sitting there, and she was kind of cold, so she was leaning up against me, and I had my arm around her and everything, and we're just sitting there, and she kind of started getting she gets a little upset, like it's just seeing people, like we're in church and there's people like, and they're still putting the face diaper on and all this stuff, and it just kind of gets her. She's just upset, like about the mind fuck that has gone on the last 2 years,
Right.
and like it hurts her to see humanity manipulated the way that it's been manipulated, right?
Mhm.
So she starts getting kind of choked up and everything. She starts, lip starts quivering. I see the tears starting to well up in her eyes and everything. And I just had to lean over and whisper to her. I was like, "Look, this is a mad world that we're living in right now." I said, "But there is nobody on the planet that I would rather be taking it on with than you." Because she's like, it's funny. We were at this party last night, and somebody starts talking to her about how they have like this pharmaceutical company. They do vitamins, and it's like all this like very holistic, not necessarily like homeopathic, but very like like some like high strength like vitamin D and all this stuff, and it's like all naturally, all natural ingredients, naturally sourced, and all this stuff and everything. And they're telling her all this stuff, and then she starts spitting game back at them, and the guy's like, he's like, "You know more about nutrition and like vitamins than most of the doctors that we try to sell this stuff to." And because she's like, "Yeah, you need black pepper because it helps your body to like not digest, but to like absorb the curcumin or whatever."
Piperine.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So anyway, so she's doing all this, and that's where I'm like, "Look, I do this. I do the anarchy. This is my lane. That with Hotep Nation and with all that stuff. That's where I vibe." And she like digs deep into all this other stuff, all the health and nutrition, and green, like whole foods, and like live, fresh vegetables and all that kind of stuff, and not cooking too much stuff to kill some of the nutrients in it. And I'm like, that's cool, because I'm not reading that stuff. Like, right. I'm glad you are. Because I just want to sit down and eat it, and as long as it's taken care of, I'm good.
Okay.
And so it's really cool to see like that. When I see different people where they have a similar type of
dynamic,
like perfect complementary relationship with their spouse, where you meet each other and you fill the gaps to the perfect puzzle piece, where you fill the gaps where you need to fill each other's gaps. And that's how you make this just unbeatable team.
Right now, everyone, all you ladies, understand. Nico needs to fill a gap. He's single, my friend.
Look,
if you got $5, no, wait, that's a different promotion. That's a different promotion. My bad.
He needs another patron.
Do I need to bring out the cane for y'all? Do y'all need to understand that everything is in tandem by the grace of God? Yes, amen.
But seriously,
I'm still waiting for you and Chance to battle rap or to collaborate on like going back and forth with some rhymes where you're not necessarily don't have to battle rap.
Word. We can do some spoken word, like
because I heard Chance was just kind of ad-libbing, spitting, like, and I hear you do it sometimes, Nico. That's not like my thing, so I'm not even going to try to venture into that. But
grab that mic like a 8 Mile. Come on, let's get it. No spaghetti and throw up on your shirt.
I'm not doing
Look
that.
Look at Chad Nye. What part of Chad Nye screams Eminem?
No, I fucked with Eminem early. No, I definitely fucked with Eminem early. Like that was
M&M's maybe.
Right,
M&Ms.
right.
Yeah,
Skittles.
No, I definitely got down with Eminem's like the first album. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I thought it was good stuff. It was well put together,
Yeah,
Y'all act
and then
like
he
you never seen a white person before. Jaws on the floor. The parent Tommy just burst in the door and started whooping her ass worse before their first divorce, throwing her over furniture. Man, I used
There
to
you
spit
go.
that shit on the school bus.
Hey, I mean, we could go tit for tat talking about this.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. I mean, I would prefer a beat. I like beats. I like acapella is
All right.
okay.
Let me
like,
find something. See
I
what
got
no,
it.
I'm just- oh, okay, Marcus is gonna throw down a.
oh boy,
It's good. Marcus is gonna beat on some drums in the background.
Is
Watch.
it getting hot in here? Oh wait. Yeah. I'm chilling like an anarch. I mean, I got my arch, and we gonna have to show you how we gonna break it like it's golden arches. And I'm jesting, but I'm never Jester, but I'm just digesting all this information like I got the gems. Wait, I need to hold it like a blood diamond or a rhyming, but I'm never in this motherfucking soil like you niggas trying to start the turmoil, but I'm just going to have to turn it over like oil because I never need the soil, but you niggas are foil because we got the 10 foil hats, but I'm not like that, but we gonna have to show you why we sick like that. Whoa, I mean, we gonna sneeze or chew. I think I need another shoe or a shot, but I'm not gonna get shot because I'm on a hot block like a Chicago got, but I'm just the one who's spitting it hot. Yeah.
Let's go. All right. All right, Chance.
All right,
what you
keep it
got?
going. Keep it going.
Keep it going, Marcus. Come on now.
You just got. I'm ready to hit the block. Ready to get shot back with my own shock track. Ready to get knocked back because I'm standing hard like a rock. I'm the rock that weathered the storm and the storm that weathered the walk. I'm unemotional like Spock, and then I spark the fire. I admire the view from the top. I'm screwed from the top, loose cause I got a few screws loose, but I'm not too crazy to got all the things that I ought. I got a big heart, I'm not gonna stop. I got ready like confetti, cut you up unsteady cause I've been drinking too many. That's fine cause I'm defending my space and I'm ending any enemies who come cause I'm bending time and matter, rhyming scatter, busting hymens. My mind is better than the average rapper, ready to rattle all minds cause I straddle this saddle right off the battle, rap cattle. I'm ready to come with the full clip. Oh shit, oh double dipping with the gripping as I'm hitting this and shitting it. Now I got to rip it with a little bit ridiculous. I'm the jester, come to test you, come to bless you, come to get the rest, to best the rest. I caress cause I'm the best in the east and the west. I don't need a rest, but I think I'll take one. Guess which way? This
Oh,
way.
bless. Oh, bless.
That was good shit, y'all. Look, man.
Just
I had
give
no
me a
idea what
joint.
to expect, but that
give
was
me a joint. Give me like at least 5 minutes on feeling a beat, and I promise you, I will give you some really, really fire heat. All right, come on now.
that was no, y'all did y'all's thing. That was good shit, both of y'all. That was awesome. That was
You
a
got my
great way.
armpit sweaty over here, pimping.
My balls was hot.
Oh, that's nasty.
Oh my gosh.
You're gonna have to
man.
clip that shit, Chad. Put it. My balls are hot.
My balls
Honey,
was hot.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
So
no,
This is a
that-
beautiful pod. Can't wait to go to work and share it with my homie and actually
Yeah,
like listen
this
to
is-
it. This is dope.
This is
Nice.
this is so dope, so dope.
So
Well,
I do think we should move towards wrapping up.
yeah, for sure. I was actually about to like hit the outro coming out of that rap, like just go straight into it, just be like, "Peace, y'all," because I don't know how to end it better than that. I don't know how to end it better than that. But Chance, look, man, I don't know how to thank you for for reaching out and just staying in touch. We've been kind of, like I said, we've been kind of going back and forth over the years. And I've been watching whether we've been actually like tapping in or not, and actually like DMing each other or anything like that. I've been seeing what you've been doing, and obviously you've been, seeing what we've been doing too. And it's a beautiful thing for us to come together and just kind of like share like our combined and shared, experiences with the world, so that we can hopefully inspire some more people to do things and to build relationships like we've built.
I couldn't agree
Absolutely.
more, man.
I want
Yeah,
to add to that and say, always welcome.
Mhm.
And this has been a real good conversation, and I think that in many ways we come from similar places, and just know that you have some friends out here too
Mhm.
that are willing to raise your voice as much as we can. I get that that we have a limited audience as yet. Future will
Mhm.
For
see what
now. For
happens
now.
for
Mhm.
now. But I think that as we resonate with each other and we raise each other's vibration, and our message is similar enough that this message is unstoppable, because it's about what God intends, and that is peace, love, and freedom. So again, thank you for joining us. And
Mhm.
um,
Well,
I got.
it's all. Yeah, go ahead. Where did you go? Sorry.
I would like to point out, and this is the last point I'll make, and it's kind of a reference to God. You know, when you were making that joke about God, is the fact that we are our own governable gods with our imperfections, and God is living vicariously through us and all the flaws and all the goodness that we bring. So we all are doing the best to highlight the best attributes God has put into us, but we still acknowledge those flaws. So never take away from not only that holy light you got above your head, but the gems and the blessings that you provide for not just us, but your family, your community, that will reach to society, boss. You're doing wonders.
Thank you very much for saying that, and for all the kind things you've said to me. It feels good. People tend to not want to admit that, but I'll admit it to you. It feels good. It makes me feel good.
Good.
And look, the truth that I have come to understand over the last few years, as I've had so many of them, is that every conversation is an opportunity and a gift and a blessing. And the sooner that you orient yourself towards them in that way, the sooner you can become grateful for the opportunity to have them. Because I'll tell you what, man, every person I've ever talked to, when I went into it with good faith and I oriented myself to be more curious about what they had to say than I had to say, I learned something from that person. And every time somebody has invited me into a conversation like this, like a podcast, for example, where they're entering into a good faith conversation where they're going to ask me stuff about myself, it makes me want to answer them fully and tell the truth and share myself with them, because I feel like it's my duty to do that to persons who are being genuine with me, because when we can connect on a genuine level and connect on the things we really believe, and maybe refine some of the things we don't quite understand, or flesh out the disagreements we have, and see where the disagreement actually exists, and see if we actually have one at all, and whether it's just a bit of confusion. But sometimes we do have enemies, and that's worth noting too. But the point is, look, man, this conversation's been a great conversation, and it helps me to understand myself better. And I feel a connection with you guys and a gratitude for that. And also, now my message is out there with people who it wouldn't have otherwise been in contact with. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for that, because the things that I'm talking to you about are the things that saved my life. And the book I've written and the stuff I've done out there, it's like the people who have connected with it have written back to telling me this mattered to me and it made a difference in my life. And that is a treasure beyond measure. And it makes all the weight of everything else that I did in my life. It makes me strong enough to carry it. And that's what these kind of conversations have done for me in my life, is make me more aware that I have the strength to carry all the bullshit I did, because I've done good things. I've been here present with you guys with the intent to do a good thing, and you did the same thing, and we did it. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. And anytime you want to have a conversation with me, I'm happy to do that. And if you guys want to come on my podcast, I'll probably do it individually, but we can get you on there and have the conversations we can have one-on-one, that we might not be able to have, four on
Yeah, it's hard.
each other. Yeah, it's different, but I like the dynamic. It's cool.
Great
But,
exposure.
the message that I just have is thank you very much. And I'm very grateful. And I hope
that you and anybody who took the time to spend with us took something useful from it, and that will be all the payment I could ever ask for.
Mm.
Amen.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it's mutual. Like we share that sentiment for sure. And I want to just reach into what Marcus said, like when you and what you were saying earlier about giving and just continuing to give and give love and continuing to give love. The most beautiful thing about that is because that is God, is that it's infinite.
Yeah.
And we have an opportunity to participate and to share the infinite. And if you think about the human condition, that's one of our greatest longings is for the infinite. When something is great, we never want it to end. And when something is terrible, we think it will never end because the infinite is part of us. And so we have an opportunity to either be infinite love, or like what you said before, we can be potentially infinite poison and death. And I choose love. I choose life.
Every time.
And with that, Marcus,
Stay free.
peace, everybody.